Kim says, "Hey Raf, so good to see your face. How are things in the world of Pilates and COVID? Things are awesome in my Pilates and COVID world, Kim, and I hope you're keeping well. Great to hear from you. Here's a loaded question. How do you know when you're training too hard for your body or central nervous system, apart from fatigue, because that can be deceiving? Thanks, Kim." Well, so essentially, Kim, if you're training, well, here's how I think about it. In order for your training to work, for you to get stronger, essentially, I'm assuming that you're thinking about strength training, although this applies to cardio training as well. For you to get stronger, you need to do two things. You need to have a sufficient training stimulus, enough training, enough and hard enough training to stimulate your body to get stronger. And then you need to have sufficient recovery, and that is enough time and nutrition for your body to get stronger. And if you increase the dose of strength training or cardio or whatever, then you require better recovery. So if you do more sets of squats, you need, more protein, more calories, more sleep, more time to recover than if you do fewer sets of squats. And so if you train more and more and more, what you'll find is, in general, there's what's called a dose-response relationship between training volume and strength improvement or hypertrophy, muscle growth, if that's what you're going for. They both kind of work pretty closely together. So in general, as a rule of thumb, more training volume equals more gains, assuming adequate recovery. So if you so number one, if you're getting gains, you don't need to train more. If you're not getting gains, there are two possible reasons. One is not enough stimulus, or the other one would be not enough recovery, right? Now, if you're training, now I know you, Kim, I know enough about you to be pretty certain that if you're training it and you're not getting gains, it's not because you're not training enough. I'm pretty confident about that from what I know about you. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, let's back up a step. If you're training, even if you're not Kim, right? If you're training and you're not getting gains, like you're not getting stronger. How do you know if you're getting stronger? Well, you can put more weight on the bar, you can put more springs on the reformer, you can do more squats, you can do more push-ups, whatever it might be. You're getting measurably better. Not just feeling stronger, but actually measurably more weight on the bar, or you did 3 more push-ups today than you did last week or whatever. So if you're getting stronger, yay, you're winning. Don't change anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. If you're not getting stronger, you either have to increase the stimulus, more training, or you have to increase the recovery. Now, if you're training, you probably have a reasonable sense of this. If you're doing 2 sessions a week and you're doing 1 set of push-ups, each session, and you're not getting results, well, you're probably not overtraining. So probably just do more and you'll get your results. Whereas if you're doing push-ups 4 days a week and you're doing 8 sets to failure every single time and you're not getting gains, well, you're probably not undertraining. You're probably overtraining. So those are the two options, right? Like if you're not getting stronger, that tells you you're overtraining. Well, if you're not getting stronger and you're not undertraining, it tells you that you're overtraining, right? And now overtraining, I don't really actually like that word. You're not recovering enough, okay? So I'm a massive advocate of doing more, right? More training, better, awesome. More and more, better and better, if that's your thing. If you want to get stronger, there's not really much substitute for just training more. But you need to be able to tolerate that training load. And the way you can tell if you're tolerating it is, are you getting stronger? So when you come into the gym, I wouldn't, think about like, oh, am I feeling energetic today? No, I agree with you. That's not a good measure. Pick up a bar, see how much you can lift. If you can lift less than you could last time, you're not recovered yet. Okay? Don't train. If you just not getting stronger, over time, and if you're doing a relatively high volume, then it's probably the case that you're not recovering enough. And so to increase your recovery, you can do a couple of, two basic things. One, you can actively increase your recovery, or the second one is you can decrease your training stimulus. Okay, so the first one I would look at is can you actively increase your recovery? So now I'm sure you're all over this, Kim, but you need, if you want to get stronger, you need to be in a caloric surplus. Right, so that is do not pass go, do not collect $200, get in a caloric surplus. If you want to build muscle, you have to build it out of something, so you have to have calories to build it out of. Number two is you have to have adequate protein intake. And again, Kim, I know you're all over this, but I'm going to mention it for everyone else. A few recent systematic reviews have concluded that up to 2 grams per kilo of body weight per day, if you increase up to that point, you keep getting more and more and more gains, better recovery. So if you're not having 2 grams per kilo of your body weight per day of protein, increase your protein intake and go see a dietitian and they'll give you a specific number of grams. But basically, if you're a 50 kilo human, eat 100 grams of protein a day. Pretty simple. Now, if you're sort of over 40, you might need more. Even more, because as you age, you don't absorb protein as well as as you utilize it as you used to. So, if you're in your golden years, shall we say, you might need even more than 2 grams per day. That's why you should go see a dietitian. Then sleep, they say 7 to 8, for the average person, but if you're doing heavy training, probably more like 8 to 9 hours a night of sleep. And the best way to get more sleep is spend more time in bed. And if you're doing all of those things, and of course you need to make sure that your vitamins and macronutrients are okay. So, if you're not outside a lot or if you live anywhere in Melbourne, you need to be taking vitamin D supplement. Again, go see a dietitian. They'll sort out all of that for you. And Kim, in your case, I know you've already done that. So if you're in a caloric surplus, you're having adequate protein, you're having adequate sleep, and your vitamins and macronutrients are on point, and you're still not getting stronger, you're overtraining. In which case, just back it off a bit. So for upper body, I've seen a couple of studies that suggested that a maximum of 10 sets per body part per week is optimal, and more than that doesn't give you more gains. Whereas for lower body, it seems to be up to 20 sets. That's as far as we've studied, as far as I can tell. More is better. So, hope that helps. Oh, the third thing is the final little sub point to that last bit is when reducing your training volume, if you do decide to do such, you can reduce it by just training a bit further from failure. Now, there's pretty strong research that are pointing to the fact that training further from failure gives better gains. Now, for hypertrophy, it's about equal, probably very slightly better training further from failure. Whereas for strength, it's significantly better to train further from failure. So I've got a velocity sensor on my barbell, and I stop when I hit a 10% reduction in velocity. So that's not a lot, right? So if I'm doing, say, my 5 rep max, I might get out 3 reps, or even more if I'm doing my 6 rep max, I might get out 3 reps. So it's nowhere near failure. 2 or 3 or 4 reps from failure if you're in that kind of 85% plus of your 1RM. If you're doing like a moderate load, like if you're doing something like 15 reps to failure, probably 10 reps you'll hit a 10% velocity loss. So that would be another thing. So short of buying a velocity sensor, it's basically the first rep where you feel yourself just slightly slow down. That's when you stop. And that will decrease your exercise-induced muscle damage and decrease your the muscle protein synthesis that is required for repair, and allow your muscle protein synthesis to be applied to hypertrophy rather than repair. So anyway, I hope that helps. The basic gist is train more is good. More training equals more gains, but you have to train and you have to recover. And both of those things are equally important. And if you don't have both of them, you don't get gains. If you're not training much and you're not getting gains, probably train more. If you're training heaps and you're not getting gains, check your recovery. Make sure you have adequate caloric surplus. 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight per day or more. If you're older, go see a dietitian. Make sure you're getting enough vitamins, particularly vitamin D, and make sure you're getting enough sleep, 8 to 9 hours a night. And if you're getting all of those things and you're still not getting gains and you're training heaps, train a bit further away from failure. And if you're still not getting gains and you're training heaps, do less.